I spent the last 3 years building websites in WordPress, 3 years of installing ungodly amounts of plugins per project, depending on what the clients need, 3 years of configuring Elementor and all the different SEO plugins from scratch. Then I had a client project due within 48 hours, and I thought, Jesus Christ, there's got to be a better way. So today, now that I'm working not just on SEO, but also ads and funnels, I'm going to show you what I use instead and why it's worth having two platforms depending on what you're building and what you're looking to do, plus the one thing that still drives me crazy even with these landing pages nowadays. So let's dive right in. I've been working with WordPress for the last 3 years, building funnels and websites depending on what the client needs when I was still working in the ad agency, whether that's like service businesses, coaches, and agencies, whether they're using Elementor, Shopify, you name it, I've used it. But for the last 6 months, I've been using ClickFunnels, GoHighLevel, and testing other different funnel tools for me to help make the client's experience easier when they're running ads. And trust me, they're all good at different things. WordPress isn't exactly bad. It just takes more time to build, time that the clients don't usually have that the other landing pages can offer. ClickFunnels excels at certain use cases. GoHighLevel is incredible for others. So let's break down exactly when to use each one. So I left WordPress working with ads just because of how much of a pain it is to edit, change colors, like do the manual works. As you can see, I don't even have anything to share with you as far as like the page builder is concerned. But here's an example of what I mean. So if you're looking for an e-commerce site, you'd want to add some stuff in. Problem I have, it looks pretty clunky as well. Like immediately you want a couple more things to work in terms of a visual standpoint. You wouldn't want it actually just like hanging around like that from a border point of view. This needs to be fixed. And of course, if you're using different flavors, kind of showing as well different bits and pieces, that you would want to make sure it indicates the title properly for each type of flavors. Just some SEO notes for you SEO people out there. Now, you can see why I left WordPress as well. You need to install WordPress plus Elementor. And then if you're using e-commerce, you need WooCommerce. And then you have to figure out a couple of other things like form submissions, e-commerce, security, cache, backup, analytics, all those different things to keep in mind. And whenever you need to move something or make adjustments, you would always have to back things up. It was just standard practice. And you need to configure each one manually and pray they don't conflict with one another, which becomes a problem if you have other web developers or other projects that have already been done before. And when you look at the pricing, you have to think about, okay, I have to pay for like the monthly for the Elementor page builder, the SEO tool, and then if I use Shopify, it's a different one. If I want AI visibility, it's another one as well. So the costs really tax on, and yet you haven't even gotten started on which email to use, which CRM to use. So it does stack up quite a fair bit. And you're paying for functionality that you're not even sure it's going to be needed for when you do, especially if you're running ads. You don't really need the full SEO suite. So the backend mess as well is one of the key problems I've had before, where you open and waste hours trying to figure out, okay, where was this? This is meant to be here, only to find out there were custom fields done in a previous project. And you would have to figure out whether you wanted to basically do a full rebuild. And the client doesn't have budget for it. And it just adds up with the stress. But think of it this way. When you want to create like a proper full SEO, like optimized website, WordPress is still pretty good because it's going to give you more customization. So if you have the time to build that out, 3 to 6 months, and then just make sure that it does its thing comprehensively, WordPress is still the way to go. But if it's just landing pages, it's pretty much overkill and it just takes too much time to use, even with Elementor. So GoHighLevel, I'm actually using both ClickFunnels and GoHighLevel on a regular basis in terms of building pages. I can show you some examples of some of the ones that I've used. It has that instant setup. So if you're not too techy in terms of adding stuff, it's going to help you how to figure it out. They even have an onboarding call that you can book, and they even pay you to go there, which is pretty cool. Everything's pretty much included because they've got CRM, email marketing. I can even go get you through like the pricing here so you can see what I'm talking about. And even got a free trial, which is pretty cool. You have unlimited clients, which is good, especially if you're coming in from a point where you've had a long email list that you want to import, or you want to use like the existing ones from your old website, especially if you've got a pretty old website. This just makes it so much better if you want to launch email campaigns. So you can see here the pricing is especially how it is here. And you can go to the pricing page for more information. But if you're an agency and you have 10 clients, it just works out better in terms of the math, because it's like 200 to 500 per client on WordPress. And then for $300, it just gives you everything for unlimited. And the only thing I have as a problem usually for GoHighLevel is whenever you try to build pages, you want to bear into consideration that you have to design twice. Design for the desktop, but you would also have to consider designing for the mobile, which is majority of where your traffic lies. But you still want to make sure that the design for the desktop works just as well, because you don't want the issue of like not getting sales or leads because it's a clunky website. So you want to make sure your mobile is fixed. And if a desktop breaks, it just affects like the layout all over again. So that's why you have to keep in mind where you're building. So here's an example of we built for Amplify as like a landing page. So you can see it's pretty well optimized for desktop, but if you want to have a look at the mobile view, you have to make sure it works just as well. So if I use that, copy here, get the mobile version, wait for it to load. It shows for sure show up pretty well that it doesn't look like it's impeding anything. So as you can see, there's some slight bumps and changes to how it's laid out compared to the original design, but it makes sense because there's less to work with and the readability is not as good when you're on a mobile phone. Now, something to keep in mind as well when you're looking at designing, when you go into the page builders themselves, you have to filter out which one goes to mobile, which ones doesn't. And then sometimes you have to change the sizes so it doesn't break or just like adds up. So testing is very important. So the reality is, like I said, it ends up that you have to design it 2 times, but that's totally fine, especially if you have it down pat with the design to 40 pre-built. It just makes it easier. So changes in mobile sometimes break desktop layout. Oh, so that's why it's important to always like check your work before you release it to clients. On a scale of 1 to 10, it annoys me to about an 8, but give me enough time. It's usually just like a 5 and 4. It's just one of those things that you have to deal with when working with websites, even if you use AI tools. Oh, something to know about GHL, they do have their own AI tools, but it's not as good as how you would use it now. I can show you an example of what that kind of looks like from a design point of view. You're probably not going to like it, but essentially it just gives out like that feel. It still hasn't understood the nuances like compared to the other AI tools like your Lovables, your whatchamacallit, the one Google Canvas just doesn't have that kind of intelligence just yet. So in any case, GoHighLevel Builder is powerful, but not as intuitive as some may claim. Unless they have their own like techniques, please share. But you need to be careful about element visibility with each view. Now with ClickFunnels, it's a lot more simpler, but in terms of pricing, it's a whole lot more expensive than GoHighLevel. As you can see, they do have annual discounts and monthly plans, so it's not as expensive as what I put there. But one thing to bear in mind is when you're looking at the number of contacts and details and the limitations that you have. So assuming you can only use one workspace or sub account, that means you would have to get your clients to purchase one further on. And then second, you're only limited to 2 team members. So imagine if you're using like a copywriter is different from your designer, is different for your founder, is different for your client. It does add up from a fee point of view as well. So in terms of visitors, you don't really have a problem. So you can send as much traffic as you want. And they do have like an AI tool to help you copyright. But bear in mind, if you have more courses, you're using different products, there is the limitation. And otherwise, you have to essentially upgrade pretty quickly. As far as promos go, you can see a while ago, I gave you like a preview. They can get like 3 months for just $99 for ClickFunnels. And GoHighLevel has this thing where if you click on the right Google ad, you can actually get a free 30-day free trial versus what's broadcasted here, which is like 14-day free trial. Another thing to note as well, here, if you scroll further down, they do say that there is that 30-day money back guarantee. So ClickFunnels, you can actually get 44 days. So you get the 14-day free trial. And then when the billing rolls over, you can get the extra 30-day money back guarantee if you change your mind. So you can still use it like on an extended basis. So it's still pretty neck and neck in terms of like pricing. So in reality, so it's not 147, it's 97, but I think we've converted this to AUD, so that does change. So it's purpose built. If you're using ClickFunnels, it's very clean compared to like the other page builders out there. don't really have to worry about prompting because it's very intuitive to build. You just click and then just make sure that everything's kind of built well. So this is one of the examples of the pages that we built. It's very simple, does what it needs to. And then when we switch it out to a mobile view, it also does quite well. And it just is that simple, especially if you only really have to deliver a certain message and you don't want people to muck around. Now, you want to use GoHighLevel if you're an agency and you're managing multiple clients, and you need to have different hubs as well, whether it's CRM, an email sequence. It just makes things easier for yourself and for your clients. And apart from that, you would want unlimited sub accounts as well. So that way you can keep track of your commissions if you're on selling to clients. And of course, if you can handle that steep learning curve as part of it. Now, I'm not like saying don't do WordPress, especially if you're still like very keen on SEO. You would want to have WordPress with Yoast or Rank Math. It just gives you that much control on what happens in a page, and especially if it could configure it correctly. If you're using blogs, news sites, resource libraries is very important, especially if you need to pump out content on a regular basis. You need to have a proper CMS that just does its thing. Especially if you have like an existing WordPress site, it's just easier to work within the system. The only thing you have to make sure is when you do move from one page to another, it's making sure that all the settings from the original page is as close to the original as possible, if not better, especially if you already have some existing pages that you want Google to know more about. I've had stories where there's people that have migrated their WordPress website to a new design and totally forgot the SEO settings. So they used to have maybe around 4 to 5 leads a week, and now it was down to like 1 a week. And they were very pissed off. Website looks nice, but they just didn't get to recover it in time in terms of an SEO point of view, and they just had to start from scratch. So it's something to bear in mind. And the other thing that we usually have as a problem is when you're working with other designers, they may have their own ways of using custom fields. It's either they're too lazy to design it on the page builder, or it just makes it simpler for them to implement specific ones, especially with the templated pages. But some of the problems we encounter is when you're designing Elementor and you're bringing in custom fields, the codes kind of conflict with one another, and it just adds a few more headaches. But other than that, if you know how to work within the system of what your clients provide, that should not be an issue. And of course, WordPress isn't dead really. It's just really overkill if you're just doing ads and funnels as like a business. But for full business websites and you want more people to discover you based on organic keywords and just have that like custom functionality, WordPress really does its thing. Now, again, just as an overall decision framework, you use GoHighLevel if you're an agency, or if you just want a little bit of every single tool out there without having to pay for multiple subscriptions and having to keep track of multiple billings. So it's best for those agencies, service-based businesses, and consultants. So you kind of know where my head's at based on how I'm analyzing this. You can still use ClickFunnels, especially if like you're a solopreneur. If you're selling one-man product, you can still have that tiered upsell, downsell, A/B testing as well within ClickFunnels, but it just doesn't have that same, I would say, like complexity as GoHighLevel. But it's good to keep like in mind when you're just using a simple framework. Now, WordPress, again, just absolutely for SEO, definitely the place to be. So if you're more into creating like huge content on the written level, that's where you need to go. So my personal approach, like I said, GoHighLevel for my day-to-day, ClickFunnels for some client work, for simpler setups, and then WordPress when they want to build bigger, like full-fledged websites. So if you're ready to build, feel free to Google that GoHighLevel one for that 30-day trial. ClickFunnels, you can also have a 14-day free trial plus a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'll be putting my links there down at the bottom description as well, so you can use my links. So I make small commission based on the ones that activate. So if you do decide to purchase based on this video, I will be earning from that. So thank you very much. So I've been using these two as well. So feel free to use these tools. And whether you're using different platforms like Perspective, Lovable, I'd like to know, because I'm constantly trying this out as well. So whenever I'm making videos like these, it will continuously update year by year. So I may be saying this now, but eventually maybe next year I'll be saying none of that, please. Just get me the Aura or get me the different ones like Squarespace. Squarespace, I've used fair few bit as well, but I decided not to feature just because of its own like nativeness thing. It's just a bit tricky that way. And something I wouldn't want to like give out, especially if you're like looking for more technical campaigns, just these ones are much more simpler. So if you want more information, subscribe for more. I'm making more videos about these, and yeah, just go pick the right platform for your business. And if you want more information on how to run ads and funnels, here's another video that I'm making, and I'll see you in the next one.